What's up guys, Justin here with the FusionEssentials.com, back with another Autodesk Fusion 360 feature tutorial for you. So in today's video we're going to talk about how to use the mirror function in a couple different ways. First, how to mirror different sketch objects, and then also how to mirror bodies and features inside of your 3D models. This can be a huge time saver, especially when dealing with symmetrical objects. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. One of the things when you're working with 3D models is you want to be as efficient as possible, and a lot of the time, especially when we're working in Fusion 360, we're dealing with objects that are going to be symmetrical. So symmetrical objects, basically if you were to divide them in half, are the same both on one side and on the other side of that object. So they're exactly the same on both sides. And so what you could do is, let's say that we were going to come in here and create a sketch, and let's say we had an object that had a bunch of kind of ins and outs and things like that. So we had some outs here, whoops, and came back in, came a little further out, maybe a little track here, something like this. So let's say you had an object like this one that needed to look like this on both sides. Well, what you could do is you could come in here and start drawing this out again on the other side of this dividing line. So you could start modeling this whole thing again, but you can see how I'm basically doubling up on work. And especially when you're creating a whole bunch of really precise objects like this, you don't want to go back in and do this all over again. And so what we can do instead is we can use what's known as the mirror function. And so the mirror function allows you to take selected sketch objects and mirror them about a line. So the way that this works is, let's say we have our object right here and we want to mirror it across this line. Well, what we would do is we could go ahead and click on the mirror function, and you can see how this basically asks for two things. It asks for you to select a number of objects, and then it asks for you to give it a mirror line. So in this case, because we're working in 2D, it's always going to be a mirror line inside of the sketch function. We'll talk about how to do this with bodies and other objects in a second. But for now, what we want to do is we just want to click and drag a selection box, and we want to select all of these edges. So you can see how now all of these edges are highlighted, and this tells us we have 31 objects selected. Well, now what we need to do is we need to select a mirror line, which is going to be the line we want to mirror this across. So in this situation, that's going to be this line right here. So we're going to click here, click on the center line, and you can see how what this does is this takes everything that we had selected and it mirrors it across this line over here. So because we were able to mirror this, this means I didn't have to go in here and redraw all of these different points. So now all I have to do is click OK. And you can see how these are all in here as sketch objects. And so you can see how when you look at this now, if you mouse over this, there's one face on the left hand, one face on the right hand. And you can also see that all of these points have a little mirror icon next to them. Well, what that indicates is, let's say for example that we wanted to move, we'll say this point over. So if we were to select this point, go to modify and move this, because these objects are linked, you can see how when we make this change on one side, this change is being mirrored to the other side in here as well. So you can go in and you can actually change these objects, and as long as the mirror is active, then you can make this do whatever you want. So let's say that we wanted these two edges to move up, for example. We could modify these, and we can move them up, and you can see how those changes are being mirrored across this line that we set earlier. So we're going to go ahead and click OK, and we're going to go ahead and finish this sketch. And so now what we have is we have these two faces that we've created in here using our sketch. Well, now if we wanted to make a 3D shape out of them, we could just select both of them and then just extrude this out just like this and click OK. Well, you can see how because we had both of these selected and they both got extruded and the join function was selected. So, or sorry, the new body function was selected. This took these and it merged them into a single body. So now, as long as our sketch is off, you can't tell that this was created with a mirrored function at all, just due to the fact that this created this as a new body. So your sketch is still in here. If you look at this, you can see both your individual faces. So you could work with either one of these separately if you decided that you wanted to, or you can select them both to work with them both at the same time. And so that's how you would do this in the sketch tools you can also do this with actual bodies inside of your model. So for example, let's say that I wanted to take this object. You can do it with bodies or faces actually. So let's say we wanted to take this object and we wanted to mirror this around so that it repeated on the other side. Well, what we could do is if you go into the create function, there's an option down here for mirror as well. So if we wanted to mirror this object, for example, we would set our pattern type to bodies. So, and that's the first thing you should notice here is when you're in the 3D workspace, in the solid workspace, you can see how your options are different, right? So in your sketch workspace, you mirror edges, but in your 3D workspace here, you mirror either faces, bodies, features, or components. So we'll talk about features in a second, but for now, I want to mirror a body. So in this situation, I want to click on body, and then I need to select it to let it know that this is the object that I want to mirror. And then, kind of like we did with our sketch, we need to define a mirror plane. But in this case, we're not defining a line because we're in 3 dimensions. We want to define a plane. So for this, we want to rotate under, and we want to find this plane. And we want to select that, and that's basically going to tell this, okay, this is the plane that we want to mirror this across. And then we're going to click OK. So you can see how now we have 2 bodies in here that were mirrored across this line. And so from here, you could do a lot of different things, but I find I use this a bunch. I use it a lot more, I think, in the sketch function when I'm modeling from images, but you can see how being able to do this can be extremely helpful. So, and you could also, if you wanted to, you could mirror individual faces instead. So you could do mirror faces, and then I could give it a plane right here. For example, you can see how that would mirror the faces that I had selected in here. So mirroring faces is also an option. But then the last thing I want to talk about is the ability to mirror features. So let's say, for example, that we wanted to come in here and we wanted to cut a hole in one of these arms. So let's say we created a sketch on this face. We set a circle in here, and that's probably not exactly centered, but it's close enough. And we finish that, and we cut a hole. So let's say we extruded this through here and cut an opening in this face. Well, we might want to take this and mirror that hole across our center plane, kind of like we did before. So we might want to mirror that here and also here. Well, there's a function in here called feature. So if you go to create, mirror, and on your pattern type, instead of selecting faces or bodies, if you select features, you can select this hole that was cut. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the hole that's cut. We're going to select our mirror plane, and notice that you can't get to the mirror plane right now. So we're going to go ahead and turn our body off so that this will light up, and we're going to set that as our mirror plane, and then we'll turn this back on. So when we turn this back on, we click the button for OK, you can see how this hole or this feature was mirrored across this object. And as far as I can tell, this doesn't actually seem to mirror these features into this new body. So I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong or what, but if I was to try to do this same thing and select these two, mirror them across the base plane into the other body, it doesn't seem to work. So they kind of show up here, but if I click OK, whoops, it doesn't seem to want to do that. So probably either I have a setting wrong, which I'm sure somebody will let me know if I have a setting wrong, or what you might want to do is you might want to make sure that you mirror your features first and then mirror your body. Like this, then those holes would show up in here. So again, I mean, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know in the comments down below, but I was not able to get these features to mirror across this plane into this other body. And note that this also works if you cut like an arc across this face or something like that. You can also mirror that across a plane as well. But just knowing how to mirror things is going to save you a ton of time when working with symmetrical objects in the future. So that's where I'm going to end this video. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought. Was this helpful to you? Have you struggled with using the mirror feature in the past? I just love having that conversation with you guys. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new Fusion content every week. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.